Hey everybody, it is Andrew's weather predictions here. Today I'm going to be talking about potential for severe weather across the plains and in a Dixie Alley. Talking about this winter storm that could be bringing blizzard conditions across portions of Wyoming and Colorado. If not, they're going to see very major snowfall rates. We'll talk about that a little bit in here. Red flag warnings, but here's the current map here. We have flash flood watches with an area of strong thunderstorms in here. I'll pull up my GR2 Analyst here. We have an area of strong thunderstorms across Illinois. We do have red flag warnings here in a yellow for high fire danger. We also have, I believe these are winter storm warnings in California for a scale system over there, but let's go look at these storms that are currently in southern Illinois here, and I do have GR2 pulled up. The plus signs are lightning strikes with the thunderstorms. So anything with a plus sign on it has some lightning strikes with it. This is dew points with the wind barbs. So currently we do have a thunderstorm with some broad rotation across southern Illinois. We also have pretty heavy rain with a very strong thunderstorm here that could end up going severe wind. I'm just going to go ahead and look at the reflectivity though. Areas of strong, pocket of strong thunderstorms does exist across this area. This is going to push north and eastward and bring the potential for isolated severe weather. Flash flooding will be a big problem with this. Some areas have already seen 2 inches of rain, which is pretty significant. But yeah. Some areas have already seen 2 inches of rain, which is pretty significant with this. Let's go on to the Weather Prediction Center here. So today we're really not expecting too much severe weather. Isolated severe storms cannot be ruled out across this cold front here. And maybe isolated tornado can't be ruled either. Tomorrow we have a pretty Well, tonight we're likely not going to see an isolated tornado, but tomorrow we do have a flash flood risk widespread across the Midwest into the plains into the Ohio Valley, overlapping portions of it. We do have a severe risk, and I will talk about that. It's looking pretty interesting. Personally, last night I went 5% tornado, 15 sig wind or hail, and 15% wind. That's what I personally did. The SBC went a totally different route. They went I'll show you what they did in a little bit here, but we do have a severe weather risk across a triple point and mainly a warm front here. There is severe risk further north and east along this warm front / stationary boundary, but it's kind of uncertain. The next day here, this is going to be Saturday. We have a pretty widespread severe risk looking likely, and this slight risk is going to get pushed further west, I'm pretty sure, because the models are now starting to show more of a severe risk further to the west. So the models have really been backing this system up and backing it in time, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here. I might see mixed precipitation with this. Hopefully I don't. I'm really hoping I don't, but yeah, here's your current surface analyst. I believe this is from 18Z. So we had a low pressure in here at that point. We had a couple low pressure, a couple surface lows, a few surface lows along this front, and then we have a totally different system to work with in here. That's going to bring in our potential for strong to severe thunderstorms. Tomorrow, see your 57 on 57, which is supportive for some isolated gusts of wind and hail. No tornado threat really likely today, though. Look at our fronts later on. So around 60 tonight, we're going to start to see an isolated risk for isolated severe thunderstorms across this area. Still a severe weather risk across this area, or isolated severe risk across that area as well. As we move into Friday morning, we start to see potential for thunderstorms in Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas Panhandle. Friday, boom. Saturday at 0Z, we start to see our severe weather potential rise across this area right in through here. Saturday at 12Z, yet again, we start to see our severe potential rise right around in here at this point. isolated risk for severe weather can't be ruled out a bit further north as well. And then at 0Z on Sunday, we start to see the severe risk being more out in here, with maybe a severe risk out in here as well, depending upon what happens with the front. Sunday at 12Z, the severe weather risk for Sunday has really been declining in uncertainty and in severity. I think a marginal will be implemented on day 3, and it'll probably be for this area right in here, a large marginal, because we have a lot of uncertainties with the risk. Monday, I would not be surprised to see another marginal to potentially slight risk get introduced. Maybe a 15% will get introduced tomorrow, who knows. Tuesday, I do think 15% is possible if what the euro is showing happens, but I don't think that will happen. Wednesday is looking like an interesting day for severe weather across a large area from the plains into Dixie. We'll talk about that later. And Thursday could be a Dixie Alley into the Tennessee Valley risk, and maybe even into the Carolinas as well. Rain over the next 7 days is expected to be pretty high. Today it's going to be pretty high. Tomorrow, pretty high. Day 3, it's going to be extremely high across Nebraska. Day 4, pretty high over me. Day 5, over in Dixie, is going to be kind of high. Day 6, and there's day 7. So this area in the pink is probably going to see very widespread flash flooding here. This area right in through here, we'll see, not very widespread, but potential for flash flooding. Widespread flash flooding is going to be possible in this yellow area due to a lot of rain happening. The excessive rain, we have a marginal today, a slight tomorrow, and a slight on day 3, and I would not be surprised if the slight on day 3 gets up to a moderate risk for flash flooding. Here's the winter weather here. Colorado's going to get slammed. And who knows, maybe I'll get into on some stupid winter weather, and yeah, really not looking forward to it, but here's the thunderstorm outlook for the rest of the night. We can see here the risk overnight really shifts over into Oklahoma and those areas, but let's move on here and talk about the severe risk. So day 1, we have a large marginal from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the way over to near Liberal, Kansas. This will cover, let's see here, this will cover nearly 15 million people and 151,000 square miles. A wind risk is in these areas in brown, with a hail risk in brown as well. Some areas are overlapping with the hail and wind risk. And then day 2. This is going to be very interesting. The main tornado threat with day 2 should be associated in this yellow risk area and this pink highlighted area that I will circle right in here. That's going to be where your main tornado risk is going to be, and it's going to be a evening to overnight threat with a bunch of different areas of thunderstorms. The SPC currently is a 2 tour for Texas and Louisiana and New Mexico. Excuse me. This will probably, in my opinion, it's probably going to get larger. In my opinion, it's probably going to go something like this later on, or maybe a bit larger than that. And if they were to put a 5 in, it'd probably be where the 2% is right now. Wind is a 15%, and hail is a 15% as well. They might be able. There's potential that the SPC could sig the hail risk as we go on. Day 3, pretty widespread severe weather risk is looking likely from eastern Colorado down into Texas. This risk will probably get shifted further to the west, as there's a lot of uncertainty with the placement of the front. Right now, the HRRR is showing stuff at 18Z across this red box region, so we'll have to wait and see on that. I think tomorrow they're going to introduce a 5% risk for tornadoes, 15 wind, and 15 hail. Broyles ends up going in depth about this. Lapse rates will be favorable for supercells and large hail, squalling with damaging wind potential. Day 4 3. Day 4 is looking not great. Like I was saying, it's looking rather marginal. I'll go into that in a little bit here. But here's the analogs here. The analogs are showing for risk further to the east, which I don't know what they're doing, but just go through the analogs here. Showing a 60% risk. We'll just take a little analog sample here. What is this? So this is the closest analog. It's a hail risk day. Fun. Not even in Dixie. What about the next closest one? Not even a good severe risk day. 2013. How about this one? A tornado in Florida. That's funny. But yeah, let's first look at the Euro's instantaneous flash rate, and the pivotal weather did update the Euro today and added a few things with it, and we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit here. The GFS is also currently loading with the 18Z run. Here's your instantaneous flash rate, though. Let's move it on to right around now. So right around now, and this has gotten it pretty right. There's a lot of lightning activity right in this area through here, and even isolated stronger thunderstorms. As we go throughout the night, these will start to decrease in activity, but we will start to see some isolated ones pop up across this area that could become marginally severe with large hail. As we move along tomorrow morning, we start to see a band of thunderstorms develop in northern Texas and Oklahoma. That will be morning convection, but it will lift out and give it time to have instability and lift. And in this area, we could see large hail damaging wind gusts in the morning to afternoon period. As we move along with our day, we start to see thunderstorms initiate in Oklahoma and central Oklahoma, mainly hailers, maybe tornado potential with those. And then we start to see thunderstorms initiate in Texas. Those are going to be your main tornadic ones. These will move north and east, be a large complex, and then we see another complex of supercells or thunderstorms form. And then we move along here, more thunderstorms start forming. And then that secondary line forms, and the Euro has it forming further west at 12Z, and that's the period of severe weather time. So they're probably going to shift the risk a lot further to the west. As you can see here, a very vigorous squall line develops, and there could be potential for wind gusts, hail, and tornadoes with that. As we move along here, even a lot more lightning activity starts to go up in Texas because of the amount of instability. And we even have thunder snow in Colorado. And yeah, you heard me right. We could have thunder snow Colorado and Wyoming with this, and Nebraska. And then as we move along for Sunday, the Euro does actually put out some thunderstorms across that area, but they're relatively weak in intensity. And then Monday, it puts out a pretty interesting risk for severe storms across this general area. And then on Tuesday, it ends up going nuts. Look at this. It ends up going nuts and putting out many thunderstorms across the southern United States and into Illinois as well. Around 109 hours out with this run, it showed a cold core event happening in Illinois with, this convection right here. It showed a cold core event, so we'll go into that a little bit later in Pivotal. But as we move along here, it starts to give a big squall line, and this is where it's la la land, where it's uncertain. But yeah. Let's go into the HRRR here, 18Z run. Let's first just go into the forecast loop, go to about 7 or so. So here's the future radar. We start to see a low development on that area. We start to see our thunderstorms and severe weather in here, isolated thunderstorms and isolated severe weather in here. Our snow really hasn't started kicking off quite yet. Our surface low goes, and boom, there goes your snow and severe weather along the surface low, right in there, along that surface low dry line or cold front combo, whatever you want to call it. As you move along, we start to see triple point here, and if I do take a sounding right there, it's probably not going to be, it's like right on the low pressure. It's not terrible, but I probably shouldn't have taken a sounding quite yet. Here's your complex reflectivity, or composite reflectivity. This is going to show you the thunderstorms here. Boom. There's your risk. Then boom. There goes Texas firing off. And let's go more into depth on the severe weather, though, and zoom into south central Texas. So let's use the forecast loop and stop at 0Z on Friday. So hour at 30, we're stopping. At this point, we start to see supercells or a bit of a multi-cell complex develop at this point. If I do take a sounding right in front of this developing part of it, it's not that favorable for severe weather except for hail. Going to be a main threat at this point. And stability does come up here. We also do have a conditional tornado threat in Texas and Oklahoma. If any of these storms can develop their own inflow and sustain themselves, we will have a threat for tornadoes and for tornadoes. Wind and hail will be a threat anyway with any of these thunderstorms. We do have marginal lower level lapse rates because of the surface, kind of the grungy surface and more moist surface. You want more of an unstable surface, not as close together with the temp dew point line. This is not even better. This is eh. But as you move along to about 3Z, we start to see this supercell in Oklahoma. I don't want to use this. We start to see this supercell in Oklahoma. It still starts to get more further to the east, north and east. Still has hail with it, and maybe rotation with it. We do start to see another batch of thunderstorms develop, and we still do have our popcorn cells in here. Now, these aren't going to be very strong with the HRRR model. Who knows, they might be a bit stronger in real life, but I really don't think these will be because they're going to form so close to each other. But that's actually a decent sounding right there, except for that surface. That surface is grungy and but right in here in central Texas here at this point, in front of a developing supercell, we get a very good sounding. Instability is a bit marginal, but that is because of the capping right in here. We do have a lot of SRH. We do have a bit of a moderate cap, but it might break because the storms might form. And yeah, you do see it ends up breaking. We get popcorn storms to form. That's north of the warm front, so this is probably going to be surface-based right here. Yeah, that is surface-based. Pretty interesting. And at this point, we start to see the cap break off, and we start to see more of these popcorn storms in Oklahoma start to form up. If we do check on the sounding in central Oklahoma, main threat with that would be your large hail because it is elevated. Convection, it doesn't have any surface-based instability. It's working off the most unstable layer. So, yeah. At around 5Z, we start to see more convection fire. Around midnight or so, and a very large hodograph with a lot of lower-level veering right in here. You might tell me, this is very elevated. No, it's not. This is a bit higher up in elevation, so the storms are going to be forming right near the ground level in this part, and they're not really going to be elevated from the sky. Here's it sounding a bit further south. It's not as good because it's got more of an inversion. At this point, we see its little black lines start to come out. There's a little bit of a black kind of box thing. That indicates rotation on the HRR. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen in real life, but this demonstrates that this line of thunderstorms is rotating, and if we take a sounding here, it's north of the warm front, but the environment is still favorable for rotating cells, just not tornadoes. These would be the cells that would be favorable for anything surface-based related. Those would be the cells to do it. In pink, these would be more hail and wind producers, and also in pink, hail and wind producers with isolated tornado potential, especially with these southern popcorn cells like right here. If this is, nope, that's not got any potential. But this storm right here, it's going to be surface-based because it's going to be south of the warm front. Now, that sounding is not supported for tornadoes at all, but you see what I'm trying to say here. And yeah, we see more of these thunderstorms develop, and these will have environments that will be favorable for rotation, just not favorable for tornadoes in that area. Take a sounding up there with these storms, still not favorable. These southern storms will have to be the only favorable ones. If I do end up taking a sounding, it's not terrible. It's definitely favorable for wind, tornadic development. Maybe, actually, not tornadic development. 3 Cape isn't there, but just see. And at this point, we're getting into more of the early morning hours, and you usually want the convection to clear out. Well, it ends up clearing out. And then we start to see more convection fire at a time that you really don't want to see it half fire, but look, this is your main event firing up right here along the surface low. If we end up getting convection in front of it, we'll have limited instability. But here's a sounding in eastern New Mexico. Not very favorable for anything other than wind damage here, and maybe isolated hail and rotation. That's about it. 14Z, we start to see more of these popcorn QLCS supercells start to form up right along that warm front. If you end up looking at the dew points here, we see the warm front is right here. Warm front's right in here. And we have is that a dry line or cold front? I gotta figure that out. And I believe that is going to be a dry line there. So we have a dry line setting up right in here, along with a surface low. So we have a dry line with this setting up right in here, along with the surface low right in here. So that's going to mean we're going to have triple point tornado potential in this area, in pink, right in here. And maybe a bit further north as well into Kansas, but this HRRR run doesn't really reach out that far. This HRRR run does show 60 dew points starting to reach into the table here. This is 18Z, but let's go back to around 16Z. We start to see, yep, triple point right here. And if I end up taking a sounding on the surface low, which is like right here, not too bad. Very high shear environment. Decent amount of SRH. It's not that linear. It's got an environment right here. Actually, it's got some veering, but it's not the best environment. And this is gonna grow upscale and become a QLCS anyway. You can already see the HRRR showing a QLCS with maybe some popcorn cells. On the AT&Z, this convection really starts firing up, and this would probably be a consolidated QLCS in here. These southern cells would have the highest tornado threat because they're going to be anchored right along that warm front boundary. Or not warm front boundary, just a warm front there. If we take a sounding right there, it's got 2,000 cape, 250 SRH, 8 lapse rates. So this is going to be favorable for large hail. And we have 800 DK, so this is going to be favorable for every single hazard. And we have a lot of 3 cape too. Tornadoes, wind gusts, and hail. So, and here's the rainfall across this area. And this is expected to get bad rainfall right in here. Anywhere where these supercells or any type of thunderstorm really starts to line up, we're going to have a lot of rain develop. And some areas won't get as much rain because these are going to be, some of these storms are going to be more discrete in nature on Friday, so you won't have as much of an environment to work with. But as we look into Saturday afternoon again, we have 2,000 capes starting to develop across the Texas Panhandle with a 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative velocity of 150 plus. Actually, when the environment, it's 400 to 200. And then we end up having 3 cape of nearly in the 200 range, which are widespread 150 plus. And anything really over 100 is favorable, and even under 100 is favorable. We've seen under 100 environments be favorable before. But here is your updraft helicity. And so areas right in here are going to be areas to watch, and the main area that the HRRR is pointing out is right in here, main area. So this updraft helicity is this is basically simulating potential updrafts for wind and tornadoes, hail, and tornadoes and hail. So you can definitely see here. Yeah, the worst one right in there, but that might change throughout Run to 1. The worst one is near Amarillo, Texas, I believe. And if we zoom in here, because I do have plus. If we zoom in, that is Amarillo. Yep, that's right by Amarillo. And if we end up taking a sounding zoomed in here, we start to see Amarillo is in this risk area. If we do take a sounding over them at 18Z, pretty darn favorable. For tornadoes, wind, and hail, we have a lot of 3 cape. That's the most 3 cape I've seen out of a sounding so far. 200, D cape of 600, that's favorable. Let's take a look at your longer range severe weather here on the GFS. So the GFS shows Sunday being interesting across Arkansas. Let's take a look at your dew points up there. I just want to see here. Oh, it actually does show 60 dews. We're going to take a sounding up there. What is this, hour 69? 72, okay. We're going to take a sounding like right there and see what we get. Okay, nope, that's elevated and not going to do much except wind and maybe hail. As we move along here, the GFS ends up starting to show a system on Tuesday with widespread thunderstorm activity and a triple point setting up in Arkansas and the Ozarks region. As we move along, it starts to show a widespread ice event for portions of the mountains there, and then a snowstorm, but we're not really going to be going into that. But as you can see here, this is showing potential for a severe weather event into the Carolinas, and a pretty big one maybe across Dixie Valley into the Ohio Valley region. Ends up showing a triple point nearing my area. And as we move along with the GFS run, it ends up showing another system coming in on Wednesday. This one could be yet again another tornado producer maybe, or severe weather producer, excuse me, and it shows me getting a snowstorm. Fun. But let's end up going onto the Euro now. So the Euro, this is the 12Z run of the Euro here. Euro, boom. There's Sunday afternoon on the Euro. Oops, that went a little bit too far. Monday on the Euro. We have a squall line down in here. Didn't mean to take a sounding. Then Tuesday on the Euro, we actually do have some thunderstorm activity in the south, which could bring severe weather. Let's go back to hour 108 though. I'm gonna point out something. There's cold core convection right in here associated with the cold core system here, and if we pause it at frame 108 here, watch that blue circled area of convection right there. Look at that. We have 50 Gs reaching up there. I mean, look at this cold pocket at 500 millibars. This is really going to enhance severe weather potential if this were to occur. And then we end up and the Pivotal Weather actually did just put in their lapse rates. And we do have a lot of lapse rates. Holy cow. Right near, a lot of lapse rates. And then if you look at the LCL heights, they're favorable, very favorable, right near. Didn't mean to do that, but very favorable for tornadoes and wind and maybe hail, probably hail actually, because we have a lot of lapse rates if this were to happen. If you look at your 500 millibar trough, you can see here we have a jet streak in this area, so definitely something you need to watch for. 850 millibar, we have a streak across mainly this southern area in Illinois, and if you look at your Cape, and we zoom in here, we have an area of nearly 2,000 joules per kilogram setting up. And if we do end up taking a sounding in front of these developing thunderstorms in south central Illinois, we end up getting this. And this would be favorable for mainly damaging wind gusts, hail, and even a tornado threat, as we do have 200 SRH. But we do have a bit of a surface inversion, which could limit our thunderstorm potential, but overall this is not a bad sounding. And if I do go along with the Euro here, on the Thursday we see that system pushing out, but look at this, Wednesday, look at that. Let's zoom in here, as this is pretty important to do that. We start to see widespread thunderstorms and even potentially even some severe thunderstorms across this area. We have our dew points very high with an 850 millibar jet streak across Georgia. And if we do back it to the day previous to this, we have another 850 jet streak with a 500 millibar jet streak as well in the middle levels of 60 knots or so, which will be enough to create severe weather. And we do have a vigorous storm here that ends up forming on the Euro run. And would you look at that? 2,000 joules per kilogram of Cape nearly, with a fat Cape profile, 200 SRH to match that. Very favorable environment. And if we end up looking at the Cape here, I mean, look at this. You have the Euros end up showing a lot of widespread instability across this area with 3,000 joules per kilogram of MU Cape. This is not at the surface though. Surface-based Cape, the soundings that I've taken earlier today, and the mean soundings have been only like 2,500 or so. If you do take a sounding right in here in southern Mississippi, I got 2,500 Cape, 200 SR each there nearly. The wind profiles are a bit unidirectional, which means they're not really veering as much with height as you want them for supercells, but that doesn't mean you won't get that doesn't mean you won't get a tornado or tornado potential. Actually, never mind. These are veering from 500. At 500 millibar, you see it like this way. 500, watch this barb here. At 500, it's going mainly to the west. At 850, it turns down and goes to the south. So we actually do end up having some directional wind shear across this area. And if I take a sounding in this blue box here, you got some directional shear there in the lower levels for sure to work with. So there actually is directional shear with this. Man, there's actually a lot in Georgia, man. If I do take a sounding in Georgia, in front of some thunderstorms, because I don't want to cherry pick one, right in here in front of this batch of thunderstorms moving up there, or showers. Yeah, that's a pretty decent sounding there. It has a little bit more a helicity. Take a sounding up in the Atlanta area. A lot less instability, but still some decent wind shear. The next day, very interesting line of the complex of thunderstorms moves through. Don't really look at the storm mode for real, but like take a look at this. Just take a look at where some of the areas that could be getting impacted. Now the GFS and you're really disagreeing on timing, so we're gonna really have to figure that out. If you do end up taking some soundings here across south central Georgia in front of this batch of thunderstorms coming up here, get not a bad sounding, but that's not great either. South central Georgia, you end up getting a sounding that's actually pretty well supported for severe weather. You get 1,600 joules per kilogram at Cape, through Cape of nearly 100, D Cape of 750 almost. Wind shear in the 30 to 50 knot range, going up in height a little bit. You end up having 250 SRH there. That's pretty favorable for tornadoes, wind, and hail, depending upon the storm mode you get. Let's look into the Canadian. So the Canadian ends up having a lot more of a different approach with this as we go on to the national perspective of this. The Canadian is wanting to be more like the GFS, I feel like, but we'll see here in a second. We're also going to look at the UK Met, though, but we'll look at the Canadian first. So, yep, there's your first system. It fizzles out, and then a new one forms, bringing up moisture, and then it shows a big event on Thursday across Dixie, and then it shows a Friday event across the Mid-Atlantic, and it also shows a overnight event into the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley, and then that goes out to shore, and then that's the farthest out it goes. So why don't we take a look at the dew points here, just to see how much what the warm sector we're working with is. So here's Monday. So ends up showing a decent warm sector to work with for Monday for some severe potential. Then as we move on here, look at that large warm sector moving up there. There's Thursday. There's the severe weather day on the Canadian. And then, that's a Carolina event and a half. Why don't we stop it at 196 or 198 here and look at the 850 millibar jet as I want to guess that's screaming. Okay, if this Euro run were to happen, we would have a very bad situation in the Carolinas with 850 millibar winds screaming, bringing up more moisture. Then we have 500 millibar winds with a shore wave coming in there. That's not a good sign. 500 millibar temps. They're a bit warm. Oh shoot, the pivotal weather added in surface-based Cape, that's gonna help a lot with the Canadian. That is a lot of help. But we do see 1,000 joules per kilogram showing up with surface-based in here. We don't have any capping, so that's nothing to limit there. A bit unidirectional profiles, but we do take a sounding here in front of this line. Got the vigorous QLCS there. Okay, that is a lot. Apparently there is a bit of a surface inversion, but if we do want a bit further south here. Whew. Wow. This is probably gonna be contaminated, or very saturated. Yeah, never mind, that's garbage. Why don't we take one like right by Wilmington here? That has a surface cap, limiting it a little bit with instability. How about southeastern Virginia? That's north of the warm front. How about the Outer Banks? north of the warm front. How about right here? Okay, that is a very, very supportive sounding for damaging wind and tornadoes, and even isolated large hail. So definitely something to watch here. Let's go into the Dixie Alley area, and we're gonna leave this because we have went a little bit too long here. Let's go right about here, Central Alabama. Boom, bada bang, bada boom. Okay, 200 cape and or 2,000 cape and 200 SRA. You shall see. Whoa, 3,000 cape showing up. Holy crap! This has spent out a ton of instability. Not a good sign. Lots of instability with that. What about further north in front of these storms here in Mississippi? That's a better photograph. Whoa. What about further north in the Ohio Valley overnight? I kind of want to check out that risk, and then we're going to stop this because this has been way too long. I need stability up there? Nope. There's a bit of down in Georgia, but I think that is going to wrap this up. If you did like this video, like and subscribe. I will see you back in the next one.